Hi guys. So, a few months ago, I made a video over what I thought were Barbie's dumbest controversies, because there's always something to be said about how badly my girl is represented in the media. And in it, I alluded often to these listicles of like top 10 most controversial Barbies or most inappropriate Barbies ever made or whatever. And what's always interesting about these is that I have never seen one that contained an ounce of journalistic integrity, no research, no fact checking, and they're just so obviously written by people whose experience with dolls amounts to maybe occasionally passing a Barbie on the shelves in Walmart. Not to say there haven't been some weird Barbies over the years. I'm sure some entries are well deserved, but Barbie's been around for forever. Obviously, there's going to be some missteps here and there. So I thought it would be fun to just go through one of these articles, give my perspective on it as a collector, maybe start a conversation about being critical of media consumption and manufactured outrage, but mostly just to make fun of them and to defend my girl Barbara, put some respect on her name. So this is the article, 25 weird Barbie dolls that actually got made. And trust me, once you've read one of these articles, you've read them all. They all pretty much have the exact same entries. They use the same pictures, and they have the same verifiably incorrect information. You'll see what I mean. It's on the website The Gamer, which seems to specialize mostly in video game content. Not sure how this ended up here alongside such groundbreaking journalism like 7 video game characters who would leave their Christmas shopping to the last minute, and which Pokemon from Scarlet and Violet are you based on your zodiac sign. It gave me Dotspin, by the way, so I guess I can't be too harsh. But I guess that's enough background. Let's look at these weird, controversial Barbies. What horrors await us? Number 25 is Teen Talk Barbie. Big surprise there. In 1992, Mattel introduced Teen Talk Barbie, a doll that spoke an assortment of common adolescent phrases such as, "Want to go shopping? Let's plan our dream wedding," and "Will we ever have enough clothes?" But like most teenagers, Barbie's language eventually got her in trouble. Teen Talk Barbie also uttered the phrase, "Math class is tough," which the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics criticized as being discouraging towards girls who wanted to study math and science. So, I already went over this in my video over Barbie controversies, so I won't completely rehash it, but I do absolutely find this to be one of Barbie's dumbest scandals. Only 1.5% of Teen Talk Barbies included that phrase, "Math class is tough." And these were dolls that had phrases that talked about loving school, wanting to be a doctor, or wanting to be a vet. With all of Barbie's accomplishments, astronaut, scientist, presidential candidate, she is only human. So what? She struggled a little bit in her high school math class. I did too, and look at me. Number 24. The model of plastic male perfection, the Ken doll, was released in 1961, 2 years after Barbie hit store shelves. It may surprise you, but there is no Barbie Ken canon. Mattel has never actually stated the nature of their relationship, married, dating, occasionally hooking up, who knows. But since Ken has only 40 occupations compared to Barbie's 150 plus careers, who can blame her for not wanting to be tied down to such a loser? Besides, if we're being honest, how does either of them have time for a relationship anyways? That's so mean. I'd argue that 40 careers is still something to be proud of. And honestly, so is being Barbie's trophy husband. But the doll featured here is 2011's Happy Birthday Ken Barbie, which the article says, the doll's name just conjures images of so much yuck. Does it? Does the phrase happy birthday conjure yuck? Have you never gotten a cute happy birthday text from like your grandmother? Or do I need to rethink a lot of relationships in my life? Number 23 is an Elvis and Priscilla wedding set, which I don't know enough about Elvis to know if this was really a good idea or not. I wouldn't really call dolls made based on celebrities weird. And obviously, one of the people in this set was still alive when it was made, and as far as I can tell, had no issues with it being released. I know there's some weirdness there with the relationship, but I don't really want to get into that. Like I said, it's just not really something I know much about. Number 22 is Sun Gold Malibu Barbie from 1983, which the article pads out by giving us facts on skin cancer, because the author seems to have interpreted the sun gold part as it being based on Barbie having a tan and not the fact her swimsuit is gold. It was pretty normal for swimsuit Barbies to have a slightly darker skin tone to indicate a tan. That was something Mattel did, I think, well into the 2000s. Bratz did it too. Am I going to argue that tanning is healthy? No, but it happens. I tan pretty naturally in the summer, or I would if I ever went outside. But I don't think a doll going to the beach qualifies as weird. Number 21 is not a doll, but a dishwasher playset from 1991. To quote the article, "Do you know what else happened in 1991? Janet Jackson signed a 3-album, $40 million deal with Virgin Records. Martina Navratilova won her 100th singles match at Wimbledon, setting a record. Sandy Ortiz Del Valle became the first woman to officiate a men's professional basketball game. And Barbie stood in her kitchen, washing her dishes in her dishwasher. Unacceptable." Yeah, and I'm sure all those women probably have dishwashers in their homes too. For a context, this was part of a much larger set of furniture play sets that were released all throughout the 90s for dream houses or just to have furniture for your dolls, because it's fun. I don't think living in a house with furniture is setting back the women's rights movement, especially because you know what else happened in 1991? A Barbie ran for president. Number 20 is The Scale and the stupid miniature diet book that was released in 1965, which has been talked about to death. Which, yeah, it was a very different time, but that one's pretty bad in context. I can't argue too much with that one. Number 19 is 1996's FAO Schwartz exclusive George Washington Barbie. They also mentioned Colonial Barbie, who is from another collection. Now, I can give them some leeway here. Maybe George Washington wasn't the best choice of historical figure to be immortalized in Barbie form. As an adult, can I appreciate the inherent camp in turning George Washington into a fashion doll complete with bright, hot pink regimentals? Yes. But I'm just imagining being a child. Christmas morning finally rolls around. You run to the tree. You see a perfect Barbie box-sized rectangle wrapped under the tree with your name on it. You already know it's a Barbie, just like you asked for, but which one? You tear off the paper as fast as you can, and it's this. It's the George Washington Barbie. Number 18. Perhaps we can blame the 70s. It was a tumultuous time after all. That was the decade that brought us Watergate, the Vietnam War, and the first test tube baby. It also brought us disco, pet rocks, and leisure suits. Oh, and we got a Barbie who wore a dress adorned with the face of, who else? Barbie. Pop icon Barbie graced us with her presence in 1977. No, she didn't. She was released in 2010. Superstar Barbie, which introduced the head mold this doll uses and references on her dress, came out in 1977, so some grade A research there. The author just thinks it's weird that Barbie has a dress with her own face on it, which, counterpoint, that who cares? Number 17, the Barbie and Tanner set. This set comes with Barbie, Tanner the dog, food, and a magnetic poop scoop. In what might be the most disturbing sequence of events I've ever seen, Barbie feeds Tanner the nuggets, Tanner relieves herself, Barbie picks it up and feeds it to Tanner again. It's called being sustainable. But there really was just a weird span of time where dolls came with pets that had functions like this. I remember from this same line, there was also a cat that you fed water to, and then you squeezed to... Anyways, as this article goes on to mention, this set was eventually recalled due to being a possible choking hazard. though there's no record of it actually harming anyone. The only crime committed, in my opinion, is Barbie's baggy cargo capris. Number 16 is about Becky, who was introduced in 1997. The article mentions how Mattel worked with the National Parent Network on Disabilities to design the doll, made donations to charities and such, all good things. And Becky was a pretty big deal when she was released. The reason this doll is so weird, according to the article, though, is because her wheelchair wasn't compatible with Barbie's dream house. Which, yeah, I think it would have been nice if Mattel had made a more accessible dream house at some point. They did pretty recently, I believe, because they have been making a lot more dolls lately that come with wheelchairs. Unfortunately, there just weren't a lot of Becky dolls made over the years, only just a handful throughout the 90s. So the article does bring up a relatively important point. However, I do think maybe it's not the place to do it. Putting a doll in a wheelchair in a list of weird dolls just has some really poor implications. And it's not even the doll itself that carries the issue, it's the other existing products. Number 15, Totally Stylin' Tattoos Barbie, also talked about in that other video. I don't want to say it, I really don't, but I know you're all thinking the same thing I am. Totally Stylin' Tattoos Barbie should have been called Tramp Stamp Barbie. The temporary tattoos, which kids could also use on themselves, covered the typical girly territory of flowers, hearts, and butterflies, and granted, the tattoos could be placed anywhere, not just on Barbie's lower back. So, like all the other articles, almost fully identical to this one, they use this image of a kin tattoo on Barbie's lower back. The doll does not even come with this tattoo. This is not even the same doll. We all played with like temporary tattoos as a kid. I don't really see how this is any different. Number 14 is 3 dolls. Queen of the Constellations, the Empress of the Aliens, and the Goddess of the Galaxy, all gold label Barbies. Per the article, these are only here because these particular Barbie dolls look like they'd be more at home among the sci-fi movies of the 1950s than in the hands of a child, which is where we have a fundamental misunderstanding. Obviously, you can look at these and know they're not going into the hands of a child. They're collector Barbies. They're very, very expensive and for adults. But somehow that concept it completely eludes some people. Number 13, 1978's Kissing Barbie. Per the article, I'd hate to think what kind of message kids would get from a doll whose sole purpose in life is to indiscriminately make out. Which again, I think is making a big deal out of nothing. She just has a little mechanism in her body that when you press it, her head moves forward slightly. I do think this is still a very strange doll, though. I find her really funny. Not necessarily because of the kissing mechanism, but for the fact that due to the mechanism, her neck is like twice as long as it should be, and it looks absolutely ridiculous. Number 12, Oreo Barbie. If you don't know about this one, Mattel partnered with Oreo, the cookies, to make a branded Barbie, released both a white and an African-American version, not knowing that the name was also a derogatory term for the latter community. I'm not really qualified to speak on this one, nor do I feel comfortable doing so. I was but an infant in 1997, so I do often wonder if the controversy was as huge as a lot of these articles make it out to be, or if it was just like, in retrospect. But either way, it's probably best that we move on. Number 11 is the Barbie Babysitter playset from 2014. The problem comes when you realize that the Barbie Babysitter is a part of the Doll's Amazing Job series. The other careers featured in the series include dentist, optometrist, veterinarian, game developer, chef, firefighter, etc. She's not an early childhood education specialist. She's not a child management director. She's a babysitter. For such an overachiever as Barbie normally is, Mattel really set a low bar here. So, I don't actually know if this specific set was part of the careers line from this time. I actually think it might have just been like a standalone Barbie babysitting set. The article claims this is the second babysitting doll since 1963, which Not true. There's been a ton of babysitting dolls. There were some in the I Can Be line, which do count as career dolls, but I'm getting off track. Point being, childcare is a perfectly legitimate career. If all of Barbie's career dolls revolved around some form of childcare, sure, that would be an issue. But one doll out of several different careers, how is that weird? If Barbie wants to take some time out of her busy schedule, saving lives and putting out fires to watch some babies, who are we to tell her she can't do that? Number 10, entering the top 10 here, is the Coca-Cola Barbie from 2001. Specifically, the Coca-Cola cheerleader one, as there are a few different Coca-Cola Barbies. This one isn't singled out for any particular reason. The author just goes on a rant about obesity in America and how much sugar we consume. Which, honestly, I can't disagree with being against the rampant marketing and advertising of unhealthy foods to children. That is an issue in of itself, but I guess a Triscuit Barbie probably wouldn't have sold as much. Number 9 is the Rappin' Rockin' Barbie. It was the golden age of hip-hop, so why shouldn't Mattel cash in as well? I can think of a few reasons. Let's picture it together. Run DMC, MC Hammer, Public Enemy, and Barbie. It would make for quite the interesting mixtape. Yes, because Barbie would eat them up. What about it? I do love this whole line for being the single most ridiculously 90s thing to exist. Could this exist today? Most absolutely not, but that is the fun of it. Number 8 is the 2009 reproduction of the 1965 student-teacher Barbie. This doll was released in 2009 as a replica of the original 1965 version. It comes with a certificate of authenticity, as well as a globe and a pointer stick. But have you noticed what's odd yet? This Barbie, which is a part of the My Favorite Career series, isn't even a full teacher. That's right, this is student-teacher Barbie. Other dolls in this series include a stewardess, a nurse, and even an astronaut, which makes sense because, in many ways, Barbie's always been ahead of her time. Well, one detail is that the original 1965 product wasn't a doll, it was a fashion pack. As for why she's a student teacher, I assume it's just because it was from a product line that characterized Barbie as a teenager rather than an adult. And it's not like there weren't women who were teachers in the 60s, so I doubt Mattel was taking some kind of stance against female education. So, what exactly is the issue here? Number 7, Computer Engineer Barbie. This one has a pretty funny story to go with it. So it's less focused on the doll, who's honestly pretty nice. Mattel actually consulted with a lot of prominent female engineers on her design. The problem is more about a book that was released to promote her. In the book, Barbie is a video game designer, but she needs the help of her male coworkers, Brian and Steve, to turn it into a real game. Things get worse from there. Barbie accidentally infects her computer with a virus, and she has to turn once again to Brian and Steve to save the day. As much as I hate to admit it, the article is kind of accurate in that description. I read the book myself out of curiosity, and the plot does basically involve Barbie bricking not only her computer, but her sister's as well, gets her 2 male friends to fix it, and takes credit for their work in her class. Which I fully support, but I can understand how that would send some not so great messages to kids. I remember reading that the author was told to portray Barbie as a designer rather than a coder, and that's where everything seemed to have went wrong. And the author also did unfortunately face a lot of harassment for this, but regardless, Mattel did end up pulling the book. Number 6, the Raider set. The article just gives a plot summary over the novel that this set is based on, which I guess it's more accurate to say that this set is just a homage to Harlequin historical romance novels in general, of which Jude Deveraux was a big pioneer of. Absent from this article is any kind of explanation as to why they included this particular set. Again, obviously, this is for adult collectors. But can we talk instead about how absolutely gorgeous this Barbie is? She's kind of everything. Number 5 is the Haunted Beauty Ghost doll. If they were going for a ghostly beauty, I think they rather missed the mark. overall the doll has more of a Miss Havisham vibe. But if you've seen any film that deals with the dearly departed who just won't, well, depart, then you know ghosts usually mean bad news. Apparently Mattel disagrees, however, because in 2012 they released the Ghost Barbie as part of their Haunted Beauty collection. This one is just confusing, because apparently she's not beautiful enough to qualify as a ghostly beauty, but they also think she's weird because she promotes something scary, like ghosts. I'm not really following along at all. So I'll just say, the Haunted Beauties collection is an amazing line from Barbie. Every single doll in it is gorgeous, this one included, but the others, amazing. Number 4 is the Medusa Barbie from the 2008 Goddess collection. Is everything from this point just going to be the author not understanding what a collector's Barbie is? This Barbie is marked ages for the adult collector, and is that not completely weird? A Barbie that kids can't play with is kind of like putting Pokemon on a chainsaw. What's the point? That's the strangest analogy you probably could have used, especially since Pokemon also has a rather large adult audience. I mean, there's articles about Pokemon on this website, which is obviously not aimed at an exclusively child audience. So, no, it's not completely weird that adults have hobbies and collect things, and that companies sometimes make products specifically for these adults to buy and collect. My little plastic women and I think you should broaden your horizons a little bit. Number 3, not a collector's doll, but the infamous growing up Skipper from 1974. This has to be one of the weirdest kids' toys ever made. By twisting Skipper's arm, you can make her torso stretch an inch and cause her chest to fill out. Want to turn back time? Twist her arm the other way. The doll's body does indeed have a mechanism that made her chest grow slightly when she got taller, which, that's a fact of life. Breasts do exist, but it's one of those things that I can kind of see both sides of. I do think it's only weird if you make it weird, but if this was something you didn't want to buy your child, I would also completely understand the reasoning. Besides, there were plenty of safer, more wholesome alternatives in the 70s, like lawn darts. But what's funny is that a few decades later, Mattel was like, hey, remember that doll that caused our company to be accused of some awfully heinous thing and resulted in protests and boycotts? Let's do it again. And they did, with the My Scene Growing Up Glam line, which went about as well as you would expect. Number 2, the Birds Barbie. This one is, of course, made in the likeness of Tippi Hedren in 1963's The Birds, which, fun fact, I watched for the first time in my high school art class. If you want your own miniature version of Hedren being pecked to pieces on your shelf, Mattel unsurprisingly recommends that you be an adult collector. Again, just not understanding that there are adult doll collectors. Also, not having any fun or a sense of humor, because this is one of the greatest Barbies to exist, bar none. I have no notes for her. Like, they could have just given us Barbie in the cute little green number and called it a day, but they went the extra mile and gave us little plastic birds attempting to kill her. Like, you have to appreciate the commitment, at least. And finally, the number 1 weirdest doll ever made. It's Happy Family Midge, which is absolutely no surprise to me. The horrifying image before you is indeed a child's plaything. In 2003, Mattel released pregnant versions of Midge and Barbie in the Happy Family line. The dolls were constructed with hollow centers where a baby was stuffed and then covered with a magnetic belly. Remove the belly and let the nightmares commence. So, the horrifying thing they're talking about is, I assume, the image in the article. The one on the left, who is not Happy Family Midge. It is not even a Barbie, not even a Mattel product. And like the tattoo image, these articles always use this exact picture. And like right next to the actual Midge doll, even though they're so clearly not the same doll. And by the way, Barbie did not have a pregnant version in this line either. In the Happy Family line, she was Midge's doctor. Happy Family Midge just had a regular Barbie body with a magnetic baby bump. that part was hollow and had the baby inside. Which, yeah, it's not exactly how pregnancy or childbirth works, but what do you expect from a kid's toy? Pregnancy is something that's, like, happens, and it is something that should be normalized. When I talked about Midge in the other video, I got a lot of comments, actually, from people who were young when this doll came out, and they said it helped them understand when someone in their life, their mom or their teacher or someone else, got pregnant, which I honestly think was kind of Mattel's goal with this. But like so many Barbies, she was simply ahead of her time. The article also mentions that it was criticized for promoting teen pregnancy, which is true, because for some reason people couldn't tell Midge was meant to be an adult. But that's more or less it. There we go. 25 of the weirdest Barbies ever made. So, tell me, what did you think? Were you horrified at all the shocking Barbies featured here? I know this is pretty intense. It's okay if you need a breather. But maybe you think there was a Barbie or two that actually belonged here. Let me know. What is the weirdest Barbie? But in any case, I am so happy you're watching. I hope you enjoyed. When you're done with all that, just be sure to like and subscribe for any future fashion doll content. Thank you.